everyone, welcome to the channel for new battle report. So we have game number 1 of the tournament Legends of the 9th Age. I was facing a Frenchman Trokler who was also playing Ogre, so it was a mirror match that I didn't play since a very long time. I don't think I've played multiple times this matchup in my life, not that much. So very interesting to try out that one again to see how the mirror is going to go. We have slightly different lists. I try to make a small improvement in my presentation. I've added a yellow box to highlight which unit I think in the matchup are the main threats. So here in that case, I think my main weapons strengths in this matchup are definitely the Mercvets with Halberd together with the Frost Mammoth. I think that's my key weapon, and for his list definitely the 3 big unit. That's the main threat for him, I think, because a lot of wounds, a lot of resilience, and a lot of attacks as well. Definitely, as you can see, the main difference is not playing a BSB, so he's taking a bit more risk, and since he has bigger unit than mine, he has a bit less unit on the table. Instead of the Mercs, he has the cheap Yetis that can be a good threat and very mobile on the flank, and he has a single Frost Mammoth. Matchup analysis. So first of all, we rolled randomly. We got Divide and Conquer and Bottleneck for these games. So Divide and Conquer, if you don't recall, that's the 4 quarters of the map that you start to score from the end of the turn 3 until the end of the game. And Bottleneck is basically either you have the big flank or the big center. My opponent, yeah, it's a multi-menace Ogre with a large unit in comparison to my list, which is more multiple mid-size unit. The primary, I think, is quite open. I think, generally speaking, starting could give an edge to the player starting because of board control. You could get starting to impose the charge range and make sure that your opponent needs to move back, and therefore you get grasp of the table. That being said, I have slightly more scoring than him, and that could be also useful. Regarding second objective, I need to mention that he won the roll for side and he elected to play the attacker, so he had the same understanding of the importance of the usefulness, we will say here, of board control. Therefore I could choose my secondary first. I pick settle the score. I need to kill a unit of Yetis or the Frost Mammoth, and he had capture my banners. Pass to victory. Yeah, I think for both of us, all about this mirror match is about chaffing and charging. The one getting the charge will obviously have a good advantage. The ability to buff, to have the tempo of the charge, the impact is going to be huge, obviously, and therefore the chaff game and chaff watch is going to be key in this matchup. An additional aspect for me is going to be to play on these superior resources. I have less big unit than him, smaller unit than him, but I have more units on the table, generally speaking. So that's going to be key. I was very eager to see if my opponent would have the same understanding of the matchup that I have, and also put his key knitter on the table. That was definitely going to be my plan, and therefore I also kept in mind that it could be interesting to delay dropping for first turn, just to not give him the idea of putting the key knitter on the table. But we will see what he decides to do. He has no BSB leadership 8, so that means opportunity, terror check, and non-rollable break check, obviously. And it's a mirror match. We have potentially dicey combat. For example, I've made some calculation of 6 tribesmen against 5 Yetis, stuff like that is going to be dicey, and definitely the trigger between dicey and winning combat could be the magic that we can both use. Let's move on to the deployment. So first of all, my opponent won the roll for side. He told me he's going to be the attacker, which I can understand. I picked the defender, which I was happy with, to be honest. I could even think that I could have decided to be defender for the sake of playing wide and playing with the map, and also due to both lists trying to play more on the flanks, because what allows me this deployment is the fact of playing wide and also limit where the Yetis can play. I've put him more in the center, and in that sense I have a bit more space in the side. And you will see in Divide and Conquer the play is going to be more on the flank than in the center. It's usually the case. Anyway, let's go over his deployment. On each side he has Yetis, here you have Bruiser and the 5 Tuskers, so definitely he has a strong left flank. The first Mammoth in the middle, 2 Kiniter on the table, 1 in ambush. Yeah, I would have put 3 on the table and that's what I'm going to do, but why not? At least 2 on the table. Tribesmen here, the Bunker Mage, and here the 4 Tusker who have Banner of Courage and great weapon, and here you see the Yetis which are going to Vanguard on each side. On my side, I went with Tribesmen on each flank covering the possible move of the Yetis. Here I put Little Strike Mergvets, here I put the Halberd, Fury, Banner of Ginget with the BSB. I thought the BSB could be a nice addition to this unit damage output. I felt it's quite interesting, and in particular in some combat like the Bruiser combat, that could be the difference between him striking and him not having many models to strike basically. In the middle here you have Tribesmen with the Mage, the Keen Eater are the 3 in the middle, and I put 1 Frostmaw on the right and the 2nd Frostmaw on the left, who did the Vanguard of the Defender to basically block the spot on the hill. Here I started to Vanguard also my Yetis on the left. The purpose of that move was, if he wants to get anywhere with his Yetis, I could play around and just threaten to move out of a line of sight, which could be annoying for him. So that was the purpose of this move. Let's move on to Eastern 1. He pushed up the table, as you can see, he takes the table. Here I'm quite happy because due to my move of the Yetis, he went more in defensive type of move with his Yetis moving to the side. I was quite happy with that, to be honest. And the rest just moved slightly forward. Magic Face, I dispelled the totem, he got Predator Instinct on this unit of Tusker, which is going to be very scary because that's a key advantage that I didn't mention in this matchup. While I have more resources than him, he has much more charge range with the Tuskers, and getting charged by the Tuskers is obviously very scary because of the impact. On the right side, he attempted something which I felt is interesting. Basically, he gave me a charge here, which is automatic, but I would be in the forest, meaning no ranks, and he measured that I cannot move with my Frost Mammoth in range, meaning I'm going to be out of Frosty. So he's going to strike before me and I only have 3 impacts, and that's about it. So interesting. I think a small detail that he made, which could have been improved, is the fact that the Tusker don't have a line of sight on the combat basically. I could charge and be out of line of sight, and I think he could have angled them a bit better to have a line of sight and potentially recover from that no matter what happens. On my turn 1, I'm going to take that charge because I measured I can put my Mage within 18. So that's perfect because I can buff them, and we know that Tribesmen, if you put them some buffs, I mean that's like steroid, they're going to be crazy. Since, like I said, I'm trying to take the good combat opportunities, but at the same time I'm also cautious enough to not be fooled by potentially a combat that could go the other way around and then completely mess up with my plan. So I make sure that my Mergvets are in the front of the Yetis, so no matter what happens, he has no juicy charge here for him. I activate the first Keen Eater here, middle of the board, out of line of sight of this one. So here Chaff Watch is very interesting in the sense of, and very important as well in this game, in the sense of which unit can potentially charge my Keen Eater and clean them. And here in that occasion I was able to find a spot where only the Tusker or the Bruiser can charge me, which I think is interesting enough because that's 2 of his major unit, and I was feeling if he charged me, he can get another run, I don't care about that, the Frosty is too far, so he will never do that. And if he wants to clean them, then he's going to be exposed against my Frost Mammoth, my Mergvets and Tribesmen. So that's very interesting for me. I think here I slightly made a mistake. I could have angled, or it's like an optimization that could have done better, just angle those Tribesmen a bit better in the sense of having a line of sight here in the flank. I think that was something I could have easily achieved by doing slightly better, and here I keep the Yetis here and I made sure that he cannot go out of line of sight here, it's well covered. And the other Keen Eater here, I just kept them out of charge range for the moment. So I'm seeing an opportunities here on the far right. I really want to win that combat because I'm already seeing if I get enough buffs and win that combat. First of all, he cannot really support himself, so that means that even if I suffered, I don't break him right now, I can potentially win, reform, be out of the forest, have a rank, and then I have more wounds than him. We're going to strike again, and he cannot support that combat. So I'm thinking on the long hand, short hand and long hand, in both cases, I should be able to get that. And if I take that advantage here, that could mean also a way here to push the right flank, where this unit of Tusker is a bit alone. If you consider his left flank, it's much scarier. But here I'm feeling that's a part of the battlefield where I could take potentially an advantage. In my magic phase, 2 dice Rod of Battle is dispelled by 2 dice Rod of Battle with a roll of 5 for both. So that was dicey. Then I have 4 dice Wild Spike on my Tribesman, which goes off. And I also dispel the +1 strength. And I get on 2 dice Hereditary. So I get Wild Spike, Hereditary, that should be enough. And that's going to be enough. My opponent roll a bit lower than average with 4 wounds. I roll slightly also, above average, slightly above or around average. But I win by a lot. I win by 5, which means he breaks from combat, go out of the table, and I'm able to reform. So yeah, that was a good operation for me, because right now I'm establishing an outnumbering situation on the right flank, and I'm feeling it could be something interesting also in the consideration of the primary objective, because that's a part of the map where my tribesmen could push and go towards this quarter to score. And here, as you can see, the left flank, I'm also in position to jump quite quickly, so I could potentially go into the 4th quarter without too many troubles. Anyway, let's move on to Eastern 2. To my surprise, he charged with the Bruisers. So basically the game plan, there are 2 possibilities. So it's an auto charge for the Mergvert. So basically there is no risk that I fail it. The first possibility is I charge with the Mergvert and he flees with the Bruisers, which means that we have a 550 points Bruiser unit that's going to be here all the way in the back. And with a 9 of roll of 9, if he doesn't rally, he's going to be out of the table, which I think is a big risk, to be honest. The second option would be to stay, and therefore if I charge, I get the overrun into the Tusker, he can charge me with the Frost, everything explode, more or less, but I think that would be definitely in my favor, because I would get the price of Bruiser plus Tusker in exchange of my BSB and my Mergvets. So I think that would be a good operation for me in terms of resources, number of units. So I would be happy about that. So I felt, in both cases, I'm quite happy with the situation. And you will see it's going to be quite technical because he's thinking he's putting me into a trap with the flea move, that I could lose the Mergvet in exchange of Bruiser rallying. That's basically his bet here. So we will see how that goes. Here he reformed his Tusker facing me. He sent the Keen Eater in front of me. The Keen Eater ambushing goes in back. So he's understanding that the right flank could be an issue, and he's sending basically multiple units to threaten me, also threaten my mage. We have another Keen Eater moving that way. The Frosty just readjust the position, as well as the Yetis. So he's forming here. As you can see, you have a high density of threats, a lot of points here on this left flank and not much on the right flank. And the magic phase, he gets Totemic Summon on 4 dice with a very high roll. I cannot dispel that. He's going to put it right here behind me, so I have another single model here in my backline, which is not so enjoyable, and I'm going to dispel the Predator Instinct. Close combat. I'm going to strike first, and I did before 1 wound with my pistols, and now I'm able to do 2 wounds with the Keen Eater before dying, so that's very good, because that's 1 rank less for him, and he's just going to reform, obviously not take the overrun. Let's move on to my turn 2. I charge with the Mergvets, and he flees, obviously. And before that, I made a lot of calculation. I made sure that I have multiple plans. So I don't know if you see it, but the first plan, plan A, would be in case he flees, that the Tusker, I have double Clouded Sight. But that's only bound spell. So if you get to a high card, there is a likelihood that he can dispel both, which could be a risk. So that's plan A. Therefore, I want to get plan B, because on the charge of the Tusker, I could flee, but with a roll of 11 or 12, which is 3 chances out of 36, I would be out of the table, which is a small risk, but I elected that before my charge, that it was for me an acceptable risk. But what I want to be sure is that I can escape no matter what. So I put myself just out of the charge range with everything else. he can charge the Merc and I can flee with my Merc over my unit and just be here and rally on 3 dice. I felt this is safe enough. And the same with the Frosty. No matter how he charge, I can flee into safety. So the only risk I have is this 3 chance out of 36 to be out of the table, which obviously can happen. I know that could be the case, but before that I have the clouded side that I can get. So I felt that's safe enough to take the charge in exchange of him. And right now for that exchange is him rallying on 8, no reroll, and if he fails it could be easily off the board. Anyway, what I found out on the right flank is that a Keen Eater can easily chaff this unit of Tusker. I gave him another run into the forest, which means DTs, and then we strike, because of my Frost Mammoth, we strike before him in the forest, and that would be another run, so I get the counter charge, so he cannot really do that, let's be honest. I was out obviously of the Tribesman for the Keen Eater to be charged. Like I said, chaff watch, always try to keep in mind when you chaff which unit can clean the chaff. That could be very important. And since I was able to chaff the Tusker, I can clean one of the Keen Eater. I turn around my mage, jump back into the unit here, and I turn around facing the Totemic Summon here and the other Keen Eater, so I don't take the risk of flank charge. I reposition here. I needed those tribesmen to make the jump in case I need to flee, and I reposition the Keen Eater because I might need him. I keep my Frosty slightly on the hill to have good line of sight, the same with the tribesmen, and I obviously needed to chaff the Yetis to avoid the charge here in the middle. So basically my plan was, if he charge here, I can easily counter charge with multiple stuff, and that could be scary. He could be forced to flee potentially, and keep in mind that's my secondary objective, the Yetis on the left as well, so that could be quite interesting. And as you can see, we are on turn 2. I'm getting into nice position. This unit is clone to his line. This one could be easily also in his zone, so I'm getting into nice position on the flanks to play for the primary, which I like. He's trying to get the center and push towards me, but I'm getting the flanks, which is obviously key here. In the matching phase, I get, I try some spell, I fail, then I get one of the clouded side on the Tusker, so plan A is valid, then he cannot charge me with the Tusker, so I don't need to flee with the Merc, which is obviously a lot better for me. Close combat, I clean the Keen Eater. I had another run on 12 to get into the Tribesman. I'm going to get a 10, which is already quite good, let's be honest, because that makes the charge for the Totemic Summon in my back much longer, and the charge of the Keen Eater on the right impossible, so that was totally okay. Let's move on to his turn. He elected to charge me with the Tribesman and attempted to charge me in the back with the Totemic Summon, but it was like a 13 or 14 and he failed that one. Here obviously that's just a simulation. He put the unit of the Keen Eater to chaff my Merc. Potentially I could have, no, that was a failed charge, so I couldn't have done anything better, but basically I chaffed my Merc. What else? He moved forward very interestingly. He understands that he doesn't need to be too afraid, so he's able to move forward but just out of the range of the Frosty to avoid the terror check, and he's able to move forward to be close to me, because if I flee he wants to be able to threaten me as well. He doesn't want to be again trapped by this potential flee move, so that's quite interesting for him. He pushed forward with both, so he's really putting pressure on this left flank, while I'm trying to take advantage on the right flank, where he just moves back, put everybody in the front, and that's a very long charge on 6. The Yetis charge my Yetis. Here I see that I'm 12.2, so I could have, I think very likely, just move a bit better to be within 12. I think that was potentially doable, or move a bit back with my chaff. I think I had some options to make that better, to be sure that my Yetis can strike at least, and do some wounds just before dying, and maybe kill one model. I think that would have been interesting. Okay, very interesting. Let's move on to the magic phase. So also, yeah, worth mentioning, this charge on the right. At the time that he failed with the Totemic, I thought, that's a very risky charge. That's only 5 tribesmen. I mean, he has a rank, I have a rank, he has a charge and a banner, so he wins by 2. And at the moment, he's on 18 attack, on 3 plus 6 up, I save on 5. I mean, there is a good likelihood that he does pretty much nothing to me. And I have 10 attacks. If he breaks, that could be pursue, potential charge flank into the Tusker here, could be charge in the bunker. Even from that position right now, I have a 5 up swift stride into his flank here. So I have plenty of options. So I was very excited about that, thinking Okay, I could have here potentially game-breaking option with that frost mammoth. Obviously that was before the magic phase. Because we both know that Shaman is amazing on the tradesman, and he gets the perfect phase, which is 8 dice against 4. And what's going to do is obviously 4 dice white spike and 4 dice plus 1 strength. And if 4 dice white spike gets a 19, I let that go. If 4 dice plus 1 strength get an 18, and I obviously don't manage to dispel that crazy roll. So he get both, which is obviously something I couldn't accept because that's going to be too much for me. Anyway, to add some problems to my situation, he's going to rally on 8 no reroll on the bruisers, so he didn't take any damage for that, except the fact that the bruisers are completely out of the action, which is already something. And then in the close combat in the center, he rolled 5 wounds, which is, like you see, slightly above average. And I roll a bit, slightly below average, sorry, and I roll a bit higher than average, which means I only lose by 1, because he has +2 on the static. So I have a check 7 no reroll, very shaky. But yeah, we're thinking if I survive, that could be something very interesting for me. But I don't, because, and interesting why, because my Keen Eater could see there, I had some options to get something. So yeah, I failed the check on 7. I flee, he doesn't catch me at least, so I will have a chance to rally, but my Frosty was really heavily crippled by this boosted Tristan. Okay, let's move on to my turn 3, and this is going to be a very technical turn, in particular to the left flank, because as you can see, I'm under pressure from a Frost Mammoth, from Tuskers, from Yetis, everybody looking at my Murkvets, and I don't have many options to go out of that situation alive. So what I'm going to do, I charge with my Keen Eater, which was somewhere here, automatically in the flank of his Keen Eater. Here, I plan for 2 outcomes. The first outcome, I kill the Keen Eater, or I make him crumble, and I get an overrun on the 8 into his Tuskers, and the Tuskers are blocked. That's the first option. Second option, we get stuck, and therefore I went with a very careful minimization where the Frost Mammoth couldn't contact me, and where if he charged with the Yetis, then due to the deep of his unit, he cannot charge with the Tusker. So he could only get the Yetis, which is not enough, or the same, he can only send, for example, the Tusker into my Keen Eater, but that would be an overrun into my Murkvets, and then I can countercharge. Or he could charge with his Tusker onto my Murkvets, but then he would only strike with 1 model, and I would strike with 4 models. So I was totally fine with that. So I find kind of an optimization, playing with the traffic jam and all the possible outcomes to try to block that. So we will see how that goes, but that was the idea. So my Keen Eater, the best outcome for me was not to kill his Keen Eater, because then I don't need to roll for the overrun, and if I overrun, it can get to unpredictable outcome. So definitely I didn't want to boost anything to help me killing the Keen Eater. Definitely that wasn't the idea. Then on the left flank, I push my Trisman out of line of sight into his deployment zone, or into his side, to score the primary. I chaff here his Tusker to the flank, and I push those guys as well into his half to claim the primary. So I'm into 4 quarters, so I'm going to be 1-0 up after this turn, which is nice. And I put myself in the front in case he would charge me with that. That's a 5 up. He could charge here into my flank. That's a 5 up. And here I reform all my unit. I go out with the BSB. I position the Frosty. He doesn't see me with the Yetis. So basically the idea is, no matter what he sends in the middle, I want at least to be able to countercharge with plenty of stuff. Plenty of stuff. So we will see how that goes. In my magic phase, I will get hereditary and +1 to hit on the Murkvets in the middle. In case he charge me, I want to be safe. And he dispelled Wise Spike. I'm not going to rally my Frosty on 8, but I'm going to flee a bit more, but not out of the table at least. And then close combat, I do nothing to him, he does nothing to me, which is perfect. We crumble by 2, which is perfect. He doesn't manage to reform to my front on a 7, which is also very good news, because I'm keeping the passive, and now it's his turn 4. He's turn 4. He charged me here with the Triceman. I fled off the board because I prefer to have this unit here than here on my back line, on my flank. Then he charged with the Tuskers, and this guy is in the middle, so only one model in base contact with my Keen Eater. And the idea for him was to overrun into my Merc-Vets. Okay, why not? He charged with, he moves his Yetis in front of my Frosty to avoid the flank charge. But remember, he has no BSB, so that's a shaky 8 leadership check. He pushes his bruiser forward. And what else? He attempted here, the charge here was, I think, make a lot of sense to try to block my Merc-Vets, so it's a 5, but he failed that one. But he made that charge, which I think is a bit risky. That charge against the corner of my Keen Eater. I mean, sure, he has 4 on the static, but then it's only 7 attack on 3+, 5+, or he need to buff. But basically what he had in mind is making that charge on a 5, which he didn't, and then making an overrun on a 9, and making that charge on a 5 and fight that combat. So basically that was his big game plan. But I think if he failed anything of that, I have counter charge, everything set up, I think it could be very risky for him. So I felt here that was rather good news for him to fail that charge with the bunker, I think. And he couldn't really escape with the unit of Tuskers, so he moves in front of me, but he couldn't really move back. He would give me back charge and stuff, so that was not an option for him. So he just stayed in the front and could try to buff. In the magic phase, he's going to buff the Tuskers in the main combat. So he's going to do +1 strength, which I dispel because I think it's the scariest one for me. And also I forgot to mention that if he would overrun with the Tuskers after killing my Keen Eater and his Keen Eater is still alive, basically he gets only 2 model +1 behind, so that's 3 model in base contact but only 2 D3 impact, but I get full Merc-Vet striking. And remember, we both got Frost Mammoth, so we go same time. So I'm thinking here, actually it's not that scary for me, because that's 3 Tusker against 6 Merc-Vets, Ginget, rerolling the one Battle Focus, Strength 6. I mean, there is plenty of way that could go wrong for the Tusker here. So we will see. He gets on 2 dice +1 to hit and on 2 dice hereditary on the Tusker, which is quite good. And then what happened in the close combat is something you couldn't have predict. He managed to do 0 wounds to me. So he made totally 3 wounds, but I rolled 3 times a 6. I had a 5-up regen, so 6, 6, 6. So that was very annoying for him. And to make it even worse, I managed to kill the Keen Eater, which gives me, I had the flank, which cancel his, he just only had +1 on the static due to the charge, banner and the rank. So I kill the Keen Eater, which gives me an extra point and the 2 wounds. So actually I win the combat by 2, which makes it a check on a 6. No reroll. He fails. Flee on a 9, and I roll a double 6 to catch him with the Keen Eater. And that's the game here. That's the game. Because you see the situation for the next turn. So my Keen Eater is right here. Can just chaff those guys if I need to. Those guys can charge here. Those guys can triple charge here. I'm going to get that. I can charge here the Totemic. I mean, here I'm going to eat the Yetis. I'm already getting the primary. I'm going to get the secondary. That's the game. That's the game. And my opponent identified that and just told me we can stop here the game. So that's going to be the end, which was unpredictable, because if you think the situation here, it's still quite open, plenty of possibilities. And actually he was stuck into the Keen Eater, and after that was a huge problem for him. So first I was excited, thinking, okay, I kill his Keen Eater, maybe we can reform and do stuff. But I didn't even need to, because I won the combat, and that was unpredictable. So yeah, very special. Also, I measured before that if he overrun here, I could still charge with those guys here, plus that. So I would still have 2 counter charge plus a magic phase. So I still think that overrun is not as good as it looks like, because I have good ways to counter that, and that's my magic phase. And we have full Merc-Vet striking, which is going to be an issue obviously for him. But yeah, right now just losing the Tusker like that without fighting was horrendous for him. Obviously it was a bit of a risk, that charge, I think, let's be honest. What happened is unlikely, but it's not that easy to go through me. If you look at the stats, it's not that easy to go through. due to the fact that he has still the Kinito in the flank. I think you have still the possibility to charge with the Yetis as well. He has multiple options. I think he was a bit overconfident with that charge, and therefore that ended up being a huge problem here. Anyway, so quickly about the game, his approach was to take the map and be attacker, which I think we can understand. That being said, I was also happy of my side and playing on the flank. That revealed to be quite good, and I think especially with the, I would say with the type of game we played, where he was strong, he has a higher charge range, could pressure me, having a bit of space and room and counterplay options on the flank was definitely helpful for me. Yeah, I focused on the primary. If you see quite quickly, I went with the idea of pushing the flank and be on the forequarter to win it. Turn 1, I create that advantage on the right flank, which was very important because this allowed me then to put pressure on the Tusker on the right and push forward and get some counterplay. The bruiser trap that he attempted to do was well countered. As you can see, I think the combination here is quite interesting to see. I didn't only just charge and then think, okay, I'm going to get clouded side, that's going to be fine. No. It was more than that. I also took into account the fact that I could fail clouded side, or I could dispel it, and I wanted to have a plan B. And I think here was kind of key to make sure that I maximize my chances, or I reduce the chances that it goes bad for me, basically. Turn 3, I was a bit surprised by that charge of the 5 tribesmen. Like I said, I was pretty excited when he made that charge alone. I was like, that's look very juicy to me. I could easily win that combat. He could break and then I get plenty of opportunities. But that wasn't the case. That wasn't the case. He just broke me and then killed me the turn after. On my turn 3, yeah, take advantage from the traffic jam on the left, I think was quite important. Was not an easy solution to find, but ended up working quite well. And here as well, you see the small details like the minimization, this cannot charge, this can charge, but I get more model than him. All those little consideration put together makes it more and more unlikely for him to work well. And yeah, for him, very unlikely outcome of the combat, obviously, on turn 4. Anyway, guys, that's all for this first game. So good start for me in the tournament. Was a fun game to play, very technical at the beginning, and then we ended up to this chaotic situation where crazy outcome, and then he has no BSB, which reduces the likelihood of passing this kind of test, and he just fled and got caught, which was a bit harsh for him and meant endgame. But pretty happy overall how the game went, and looking forward to the second one. Take care, goodbye.